All right. Hello, everybody. We're back for another episode of Beyond the Field Pod, presented by Elevate Sports Media. Today, we have actually a pretty special interview for me and Mark coming up later. Honestly, just all three interviews. So, we're going to run this podcast a little different. We're going to have three different interviews meshed into one because we have three University of Tampa baseball players coming on today. So, this is really interesting for me because I am on the University of Tampa baseball team right now, but also really interesting for me and Mark because one of the interviewees is Jack Brodsky, who we both played high school baseball with. Brodsky is actually a few feet over from me in the next room. He's my roommate now at the University of Tampa, so we have a lot of fun things coming up today. I'm really excited to do this. It gives me time to block out, 30 to 40 minutes to talk with these guys more, ask them more about their experiences because, sometimes when you're on the same team as someone and you're constantly going and the only time you see anyone is like on the field, you don't get to, talk about the off the field experiences as much. So I'm really excited for today. And we might not have Nico. He's on his spring break trip. And he texted me last night and said he might have some heat exhaustion. He's a New York boy, not used to going on a spring break trip and playing baseball down south. So we got Mark, and we should have some fun today.
Isn't it kind of funny that everywhere else in the country, basically, I feel like for spring training or for spring break trips, they all go down to Florida or somewhere near Tampa, but you guys go down and just send it straight to DR?
Yeah, we sent it to the DR for a week and stayed in an all-inclusive, which was amazing. And last weekend we went to Mississippi, which I don't know if I'll ever be back to Mississippi. There wasn't too much to do there. we went to a Cracker Barrel in the morning. We got hibachi actually one night for Brodsky's birthday was this past weekend. So a few of us as a team went over to hibachi.
Some breakfast at Cracker Barrel?
Breakfast at Cracker Barrel. Brodsky got these cheesecake loaded pancakes or something like that. And I mean, they looked incredible. But
that's unreal.
I haven't been to Cracker Barrel in a while.
Shout out to Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, I was talking about Cracker Barrel with someone recently, and I didn't know that some of them were in New Jersey too. I thought they were only like Virginia and South, but there are Cracker Barrels like all throughout the Northeast and everywhere.
Cracker Barrels are everywhere. They're down in they're more South Jersey. Like I see them down here towards Rowan a little bit more, but there's still not a lot of them.
Yeah. I'm texting Braydon right now. He said he's hopping on in a few. So our first interview for today is going to be Braydon Nelson. I can give a little more background when he hops on, but Braydon was an All-American last year for Tampa. He's bounced around a little bit in his career. He's played in the Cape Cod League. So Braydon is going to be a nice college baseball face who probably has a lot of stories to tell us. I'm excited to hear what he has to say and how he preps himself for seasons and how he's gained some velo, things like that. A little bit about Elevate. Obviously, you guys can find this podcast on beyondthefield.pod. Been staying up to date with posting reels and clips throughout the week of the interviews. So just even if you don't have time to listen to a full interview, go give that a like, comment, and stay up to date with all the interviewees that we have on.
Also, definitely would check out our NIL account also, which is underneath that we're also trying to get going. It's more of a page just for our college guys, just to show the NIL deals that we've been getting them to kind of separate it from the pro guys, but definitely go give that a look also.
Yeah. And then finally, Elevate Media Sports on Instagram is our main page. We did hit 3,000 followers like last week or 2 weeks ago.
Big 3K.
Yeah, the big 3K. We're excited for that, and we're excited to keep growing the foundation as we keep, having to chug through this season. I was talking to Mark before we hit the record button. It is middle of the season right now for me and Nico, and Mark, is basically on spring break, and we're grinding. We always will be grinding, but it gets tough sometimes, but we're excited to keep growing this and having fun
We're
while doing
making it
it.
work. We're making it
Yeah.
work. We got 2 guys that have a full schedule right now with the full baseball season ahead of them, and we're still getting these out, which is totally fine with us.
Yeah, we got armored heat set up with a few of our pitchers, help them keep their arms in shape for the season. We're working on some deals with KAEX we talked about.
I'd also probably want to throw in there a little bit for any coaches out there that are listening to us. Oh, there he is. Hold on a second.
Hey, Braydon. How you
What's
doing?
up,
All right,
Paul?
Mark, we'll finish that thought in a second.
Yeah,
Just
we'll
want to let
figure
you
it
know
out.
we are recording already, Braydon.
Sweet.
It's very super low-key, laid-back type interview session.
It's early in the morning, but Paul's always like, if you want to crack a brew open, we got a brew right next to us. Somebody on here will have a beer with Paul. Somebody will have a beer with Paul at some point.
If it wasn't 9:30 in the morning, Braydon, I would say we should crack a beer.
I probably would do it with you if we didn't still
Yeah.
have practice and lift to do today.
Yeah, me and Braydon got practice and lift later today. The heat, Braydon, is going to start getting to us. I haven't had a later in the spring Tampa weather yet. So kind of tell the listeners a little bit what that's like playing double headers on Saturday in 90-degree weather, because I don't know if I'm mentally prepared for it yet, and maybe you can try and help me mentally prepare.
Oh, it can definitely get brutal. Last year during the playoffs was probably the worst it ever was. We had a bunch of people cramping up on the field. Our coaches ended up bringing in a bunch of like hydration drinks. Sam found a company that sent us a bunch. I don't remember what the company was off the top of my head.
Maybe we
they
should
just
know
had
that.
a
Maybe we can
cooler
reach out
full
to
of all these energy drinks and or not energy drinks, but hydration drinks for people. Brickett, our athletic trainer, got us a bunch of Pedialytes that were in the dugout too. But I mean, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like this year with our turf field now. It's going to be even worse with the heat. But it's going to be just as much as an advantage because the other teams aren't going to be used to it, and we're at least going to have it every weekend when we're playing at home. So we'll get used to it.
Braydon is a bullpen arm the past couple of years, or actually has made a few starts, but this year is definitely coming out of the pen being one of our main closers. How do you try to stay focused throughout a doubleheader day, Braydon? Like, what are your routines? I know I have, kind of some routines that I like to go through, but what do you need to get done to feel like once you get on the mound, you can perform at your highest level?
Yeah, so basically I'll do my stretching and a little tossing before the first game of the doubleheader kind of thing. And then I basically try and stay at a point where I'm not like sitting down and getting cold or whatever. I'm just kind of moving around the dugout, and maybe throughout the game I get a feel for how the game's going, if I'm going to be needed before the coaches tell me I'm needed, so that I can do a little bit more stretching before then. And then when they make that call and I have to get hot, I can pretty much just get right on the mound. I don't have to do anything extra with any more pile balls or bands. I can get on the mound and start throwing, and I'm ready to go there. But I always like to make sure I'm locked into the game while it's going on so that I can be mentally ready. If it is that close game scenario where I know I'm probably going to get into the game.
Would you say just out of me asking, because I haven't seen you guys, or I've seen a few of your games, were you more beginning in the game pen, later in the game pen guy, kind of wherever kind of pen guy whenever they need you to come out, or is there no like set schedule for that?
So it's usually later in the game. If we get to the end of the weekend and I haven't thrown yet, like that happened one of our weekends this year. But if it's the last game of the series or something I haven't thrown yet, they usually just throw me out there first out of the pen, just so that I get in for sure kind of thing and get work in for the weekend. But like on a Friday night kind of thing, it's usually going to be that 7, 8, 9 innings is when I'd be looking to probably get in the game if it's close kind of thing.
When it's go time.
Yeah.
The walkie-talkie radio's down. Braydon's nickname is Big Bird, and it goes, "Get Big Bird hot. Get Big Bird hot." So just to give you the listeners a little more background about Braydon. Braydon was an All-American last year. Braydon, I was looking back at these numbers, and they're pretty stupid. I mean, you pitched in 24 games. You had 20 saves. and you pitched 60 and a third with 9.4 K per nine and under a 2 ERA, 1.79 ERA, first in the SSC, the conference. So, I mean, hitters were batting 226 off you. It seems like every time you went out there, did everyone know the game was over? What was that feeling like? How did you prep for the season? And do you think it was any different than how you prepped for this season? Like what
was your mentality?
How you felt? Yeah. What was the mentality through like an All-American type season?
Well, I don't really think I did anything different going into it, but the one big difference is that was the first year where I moved to the pen to be in that closer role, because the year before I did work as a starter leading up like the first part of the season, then moved to the bullpen during the playoffs that year before. And I feel like my mentality as a pitcher, the way I like to attack, works more, like plays more out of the pen, because I like to be aggressive and throw max intent, which is harder to do as a starter when you have to go that longer extent of innings. So once I got into the pen in those late games in the playoffs the year before, and then was able to do it all of last year, I think that kind of I was able to take off out of there. And that's just the way I think when I'm at my best, when I'm pitching out of the pen like that.
Yeah.
No, it definitely. Paul was putting together this doc that we're looking at, and it's just first team, second team, first team, first team, first team, first team. It's nuts. It's actually crazy. The year that you had last year. You need another one like that this year.
Yeah, no, Braydon's throwing the ball well again this year. It's fun to watch. It really is. Braydon is a 3-pitch mix guy. Braydon, you'd say, like or what would you say? I know it's sinker, changeup, slider, the main 3. But do you consider any other pitches in the arsenal?
I mean, I'd say I have 2 different fastballs, because I'll throw the 4-seam too, and then the sinker as well. So I consider those 2 different pitches, but yeah, it just depends how you view it. Otherwise, but then it's the slider and the changeup, and the slider is typically the go-to pitch. It's what Sam loves to call.
Yeah, don't give away too much in case some of our competition is listening. But yeah, no, Braydon has gotten Braydon's gotten a couple swords going the past couple weekends when he's been out on the mound. So Braydon, I don't want to get this wrong, but you've been clocked up to 96, 97 miles an hour on a fastball?
Yeah, the last 2 years, both I was able to top out at 97. I'm working on getting back there now, but
absolute fuel coming out of that right arm of yours. Where did you see, like, when did you see your biggest velo jump? When did you start going from, those mid 80s, probably where you were at in high school, to almost throwing 3 digits? So when did you see that biggest jump, and where did you think you got that velo from?
It probably correlates with when I came to Tampa. So like in high school, like you said, I was like in the mid 80s. I think according to PBR in Ohio, I topped 90 my senior year of high school. But like I got to college my freshman year, and I was still, like a mid upper 80s guy. I think I topped 91 or something that year. But when I transferred down to Tampa and started working in Sam Militello's program, and then also going to the Florida Baseball Armory in Lakeland, my velo started to jump up. I fine-tuned a little mechanics, was doing a little bit more long tossing. The warmer weather, I think, certainly helps. But being in the program down here, from like my velos, the average velo has just gone up every year kind of thing since I've been down here. And I think that's just being in this program has been a huge help with getting that velo, that good spot.
Definitely.
Where did you say you went? The Florida what?
Florida Baseball Armory. It used to be the Florida Baseball Ranch. It's run by Randy Sullivan, who a lot of big leaguers and pro guys all go through that program as well. But
yeah, so if you're in the Florida area, I've definitely heard during our practices or things like that, our players talking about going there and getting better. So that's interesting. I want to check out their pages on social media and everything else, because
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going. My fault.
No, you're good. Go.
I was just kind of wondering, so you're from Ohio, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So when Ohio to New York and now to Florida, right?
Yeah.
So how is it just like baseball aside and everything, how is it kind of bouncing around and ending up at kind of a resort like school at Tampa? Like how is it dealing with walking around campus and seeing bikinis and beaches everywhere, going from Ohio to New York now?
Oh, it's super nice. It was a huge change because like the first college I went to, St. Bonaventure, is kind of in the middle of nowhere in rural New York. So I mean, you're kind of secluded on that campus. It's obviously snowing half the year. Everyone's bundled up, and then coming down to Tampa, like you said, it's during spring break, plenty of people walking around in their bathing suits just while we're walking to and from practice or our game the other day.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a yin and yang kind of change there.
It's it's like it's March or February, and it's just 85 degrees.
So being that you're down there like that, does that ever mess with your mental at all? Like being you're on such a set schedule, going to and from practice and lift and whatnot, seeing other people, like seeing how the life is outside of baseball. Is it tough at all for your mentality?
I don't think so. I mean, like my life's been centered around baseball for as long as I can remember. So, I mean, that none of that stuff really ever.
You just block all that out.
It kind of just gets blocked out. Yeah.
That's all.
I agree with that.
Stay locked in.
It doesn't really like clog up the mind at all.
I think we're so blessed to play baseball. Like me and Braydon, especially guys on the team who have played cold baseball, and we know what it's like to like have to grind through those 35, 40-degree weather games.
Yeah.
And now, like, regardless if we see people walking around, like going to pool parties, things like that, we're just happy to be going to the field and being in shorts and a t-shirt and not having to be throwing in a sweatshirt and doing everything we can to get our bodies warm.
Yeah. No.
So I know my arm definitely appreciates it now too, Braydon. So I think it's definitely something as a pitcher where we probably should have thought about more out of high school, maybe going down south and always being in the warm weather.
I feel like it's also definitely a lot easier to get to cool your arm off than to warm your arm up, like kind of just not even having to do anything.
Yeah. So have you always been a PO, Braydon? Like, have you been pitching since you got into college?
Since college, yeah. But going into high school, I was actually a catcher.
Really?
I pitched and caught my freshman year of high school. I was about 6 feet tall at that point. And then by my sophomore year of high school, I'd grown to about 6'3", 6'4", and I gave up on catching for the betterment of my knees.
Wow. So you were a quick jump right there. 1 year and grew 3 or 4 inches. Did you play any other sports in high school?
I did rowing my freshman and sophomore year of high school. That was in the fall. So that's the time where, no baseball going on in the fall up north. So I was doing that. And then it was just baseball besides that, though.
That's interesting. I've never really heard of baseball players and rowing combining together. So do you think that helped like your shoulder back muscles when you were growing up to help throw?
It definitely helped. Rowing is one of the most like physically demanding sports out there. Just doing it for those 2 years, it was crazy. It's definitely you have to be mentally tough to get through that, especially rowing out on the water up. In Ohio, the weather can get pretty cold in the fall. Water can be a little rough sometimes.
So you were just on the water in those cold Ohio falls, rowing and getting yelled at by your coach, row. What do practices for rowing? What do practices for rowing look like? Like, how do you practice rowing? You get on the boat with your team and get out on the water?
Pretty much. They also have the rowing machines if weather were really bad or something. So you'd be indoors on the rowing machine, which is honestly even worse because it's just like running on a treadmill. You're in place doing it, and there's if you're actually rowing on the water, as opposed you see yourself moving, you're seeing everything around. So there's a little bit of stuff to distract your mind from what you're actually doing. But when you're inside on the machines, there's nothing to look at other than the timer in front of you for how long you're going.
So what was the biggest differences you've seen between St. Bonaventure and Tampa's programs? Like, obviously weather is one that we're talking about, but is there anything else on the field, off the field, coaching wise, anything that comes to your head? Like, what are some of the main differences you've seen, and what? Answer that question first, but then a sub question I have is, when did you know that you wanted to transfer out of St. Bonaventure, and how did you find Tampa? So many questions on that. You first start with.
We just want to hear your story. We just want to hear the journey that you've been on.
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest difference would be the culture between the two. Tampa's obviously a national powerhouse, so the culture is built around winning, and the goal is always to win the national championship. At like a mid-major school like St. Bonaventure, there's not really much of a hope for like a national title run or anything like that. They'd have to have a lot of things go right. So the culture is more around trying to win, to like make it to the conference tournament and see if you can win the conference tournament to get to the national tournament kind of thing. So I think there's just a huge difference in those two types of cultures, because the one's like all the way or bust, and the other one you're just trying to sneak in. And I think that really affects like how the players play when you've got your goal is like so high oriented in the one. I mean, I feel like that culture is just way better for developing and winning kind of thing.
It puts you on such a different mentality when you kind of practice and like you have a set goal that exceeds winning just your conference championship or anything like that. That it's such a different like mentality from start to finish, from a fall ball to winter ball to spring ball. Definitely going through all that.
Oh yeah. And then for your second question, Paul. I think one of the biggest things that got me thinking about transferring was my freshman year. We were playing St. Joe's at home, and there was a blizzard. It snowed that Friday. We got through half the game. And then the next day, all the freshmen had to go out and try to shovel the snow off the field.
Oh, my God.
Well, it was just one of the most brutal things ever. But we didn't even end up getting any more games, and we never finished the first game of that series. But that was just one of the craziest experiences of my baseball career, is trying to shovel snow off of a turf field in March.
We had to do that at Rowan also. We had the whole team stomping out the field back and forth just to soften it up for like an hour.
That up north baseball compared to down here is, I mean, I think we appreciate it more than anyone, Braydon, or just anyone who's played north baseball. It's like going out and just actually not having to worry about weather is such a crazy part of the game that you don't always think about.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Right. So I just wanted to like kind of get a little bit more insight, just like learn a little bit more about you. Can you just like kind of give me like a day in the life? Either it could be game day, practice day, whatever you want to do it, just a perfect day in the life.
Yeah, well, I can I mean, just today, so I woke up, had my breakfast, which was scrambled eggs, the Kodiak protein waffles with peanut butter spread on top. I learned that trick from one of our teammates, Adam Hunt. He's really good with food. I'll say that. But it had a ton of protein in that meal to start the day kind of thing. But after this, we're probably going to go lift before practice. Then I'll have practice. And after practice, it's spring break. I don't even know what I'm going to do after practice today. Might have to do a little bit of schoolwork, but I don't really.
No, we're on break.
I'm kind of lucky with school. I'm in grad school. So I've only got one class I'm doing this semester, so it's kind of I don't have to worry about it too much, which is
what
really
grad
nice.
Program are you in?
Business analytics.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. So also transitioning a little bit, I know you played in the Cape last summer. So Cape Cod League is probably the top summer league. What are some of the experiences from there? How was the competition? Do you feel like you grew as a player? Do you recommend it to these young players who are looking to get drafted? What was the atmosphere like there?
It was definitely one of the best baseball experiences I've had. I was only there for about 2.5 weeks at the end of it and for their playoffs. But I mean, I think it's a humbling experience for a lot of these Power 5 school guys, because they're coming. Well, for us too at Tampa, we're coming from a school where basically every need of ours is taken care of, and you go to the Cape, and it's kind of like they're playing like the fields they play at are honestly like high school fields. It's a really nice area, but like you're traveling on like a yellow school bus. It's kind of like a throwback to like what you might have at just like a normal high school experience, but for all these like really good baseball players. But I mean, it's really easy to bond with your teammates there because of it, because you're all in this like same situation together. And I got really close with a lot of those guys in a short time, and I'm grateful for that. I still keep up with these guys and their seasons right now. But definitely like the on the field product, baseball talent there, really good experience. I think it helped me grow as a player and a person, just being there with all those guys.
So
who were some of the names that you got closer with? Like, what schools do they play at? Just to give the listeners some sort of idea of what players you get to go play with in the summer after playing a full season with Tampa.
Oh yeah. Well, my roommate, he plays at Iowa. Well, he just transferred to Iowa, but we also had another kid on the team that's at Iowa. They're both pitchers. It's close with both of them. We had a couple pitchers that I was close with that play at Kentucky. I know I did get to pitch against Enrique Bradfield from Vanderbilt. That was a fun experience.
Awesome.
There were quite a few Stanford players too as well.
Yeah, what was the outcome of the at bat against Enrique?
He first pitch ground out to shortstop.
Love that.
That's all I got. He swung at the first pitch on a sinker.
What do you like better as a pitcher? Getting a strikeout looking, or like a sword strikeout swinging? Or would you rather a quick 1, 2, 3 inning, less than 5 pitches? Like, what is your favorite feeling of
like if you freeze them, if you like catch them lacking, a little wobbly?
Yeah.
I don't get many looking strikeouts. I feel like they're nice, but it's not something that I see happen a lot. I really like getting the sword swing and miss strikeouts. If I were to go back to being a starter, those quick innings would definitely be better. But as a guy out of the pen, I'm gonna enjoy the strikeouts more.
I see that. I definitely see that. So Braydon is newer to Elevate. He joined within the past couple of weeks, so we're doing some work for him. We got him paired up with Armored Heat. Braydon, how is that going with the arm program you got going on with Armored Heat?
It's awesome. I love it already. Just having that routine to follow every day, different thing to do kind of thing based on what kind of throwing. My arm's feeling really good doing all of it. I'm grateful for that opportunity. I'm glad I got in at the right time to hop on board with that. So thank you to you guys.
No problem there. We're doing our job. What companies have you worked with through past NIL experiences? So Braydon, has done some of his own work, some of his own reaching out. We're going to be able to do some of that for him now. But what are some past companies that you've worked with, just so listeners can have an idea of what college players are looking to do with these companies?
So the biggest one I was able to work with was Trevor Bauer's own NIL thing back just this past fall. The
Bauer outage, I think. Yeah.
Bauer outage.
The sword shirts.
So, yeah. So that one was really fun. I was able to get a couple of free apparel items for it, and I just had to post a few times each month. And his account would repost all the stuff I'd post for it, which was really nice for helping to just grow my own following on social media, because I got quite a few followers out of his repost, which I really enjoyed that part of it. So it was a really good experience. But then other than that, I think one of the first deals I got was with an energy drink company that's pretty new called Raise Energy. I get a pretty nice discount, and then I have a discount code for other people to use. I use those drinks a lot with pitching. I usually drink one before going in, kind of thing, to just
do you still have that code?
do still have that code.
Let it rip right now. We can make a clip.
Hold on. It's in my Instagram bio. Let me just check to make sure I know what it is first.
You're good.
Yeah, so a lot of times when we get deals with these athletes, sometimes these brands will give codes to these athletes so that they can put them out on their socials and share with friends and family so that when they buy something, they can get a percentage of the deal so they know how the consumer heard about the product. So Braydon, you find the code over there?
I think I use the same code for everything. I think it's BT Nelson 21. So
BT Nelson 21.
Yeah. Same with my Instagram handle. I think I use that code for that, I believe.
Yes. So go
Raised Energy Drinks. BT Nelson 21.
Nelson 21. Go follow him on all socials as well. Braydon, so this was great today. Just doing a little end of the podcast episode. Something we're trying to do with all of our guests is something called You Scratch My Back, I Scratch Yours. So I got a lottery ticket right here for you.
All right.
I'm going to scratch it off.
We almost had 50K last time.
We were one number
away
off from 50K. So I'm going to start scratching.
Braydon, scratch offs, Braydon?
Yeah, have you ever won any money off scratch offs?
Nothing substantial. My parents always liked scratch-off tickets in the stocking for Christmas, but I feel like I probably won like $20 maybe at most.
I actually always used to get those
like a jackpot for one of those things.
Yeah.
It's like winning the lottery, $20 for one of those.
Okay, Braydon, your winning numbers are going to be 2 and 8. And now time to finish scratching off the rest of it.
Those numbers.
Do you like those numbers?
I like those numbers.
You like
We're feeling dangerous. We're feeling dangerous with the 2 and the 8.
And Braydon, I am sorry to tell you this is a dud. This is a big old-fashioned dud. No connecting numbers on there. Probably hard to see. Maybe we'll add a picture so you guys can see later. Braydon, I'm sorry we couldn't win you millions. We will one time on this show, I promise.
I'm looking forward to it.
We got that. It was really cool talking to you, Braydon.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on with us.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely want to have you back on at some point.
Yes, hopefully after the season, you'll be in a position where you're talking with teams again, getting on that draft board, seeing your name on the draft this year, or post-draft signing. We're hoping that Braydon can get into the league after this year and continue his baseball career at the professional level.
Keep working, Braydon.
All right. Braydon, thank you. I'm going to pause it now.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So we just finished up with Braydon Nelson. Now we got Jack Brodsky joining in. This one's really special to me and Mark as he joins in now. This is going to be an extremely interesting interview because at any point, if Brodsky says anything I don't like, I can run into his room and you guys can see me beat him up on camera. So, Brodsky, you there? Let's make sure we hear you.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We got Jack Brodsky on.
There he is.
For the University of Tampa. Brodsky actually started his career at Emory University. So let's start off with that, Brod. Like, what made you decide between finishing up, a grad degree at Emory versus hitting the transfer portal and checking out your options?
Well, when I got to Emory, I sort of hit a certain point after my sophomore year where I realized that I wanted to play after college. And even though I had known of guys who went to Emory, played baseball at Emory, who got their chance to get drafted, signed, whatever it was, I figured I'd have a better shot at playing further or pro ball, getting signed at another school that would get more exposure. And Tampa kind of checked that list when it crossed my desk.
Did you guys talk about it at all together? Were you guys both just all right, we're both gonna go to Tampa, or did that just
not in the slightest? I had
Tell the
no
story,
idea.
Bro. Yeah.
I was told that Tampa wanted me to visit in November, the first weekend of November. So my mom and I went down to visit. I loved it, whatever. Then I found out my brother.
At school though. We were both at different schools. Yeah. So Brodsky didn't I don't even remember if he told our group chat that he was going to visit Tampa.
I didn't, not at all, because Tampa wasn't even on my original list, and it came out of nowhere. So I went, and then I found out my brother was also looking to go there for undergrad or whatever. So that was another plus to go there. And eventually I received a few words of wisdom from some people, and I basically told the Tampa coach, yes, I would like to come to your school to play for my 5th year. And then I texted on a group chat, and everyone's like, congrats, Brodsky, like, go get it, like, good luck. And what does Paul text me? The first thing he texted me, bro, no way, I'm looking there too.
I think it was something along the lines of "fuck you." Why did you tell me that you were looking there? Like, I'm literally going to visit next week, and you didn't even tell me that you were thinking about going there. Now this might make my decision way easier.
But then I find out that Paul's also looking there, and I'm thinking in my head like, I can curse.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, like this could be sick. Like one more year of playing in college, like my brother, my best friend, like on a super competitive baseball team. Like it's like I couldn't ask for anything else. Then he decides to take 3 months to make a decision. And I'm over here like, dude, I'm ready to look at apartments. I'm ready to scout out Tampa. And he's like, yeah, I don't know.
I just needed to see all the options. I needed to enjoy the transfer portal life for a little bit. Like I in the back of my head, I was pretty sure that I would end up at Tampa, knowing that you would be here, knowing that we would both have a chance to still get drafted, both, be able to go out there and compete at the highest level, maybe go win a national championship. So it's something that I kind of knew in the back of my head that we would both be doing together for our last year. But something that's cool about this podcast is that me, Mark, and Jack actually all won a state championship in high school together. Pascack Hills, we went 30-2, finished as the #1 team in New Jersey. So, Brad, tell us any memories that you have from that year. Like, do you have 1 or 2 specific memories that stick out that could be a good story to tell the listeners?
I feel like there's so many.
Yeah, there's.
I feel like there's so many.
I don't think there's.
No, you keep going.
I don't think there's really one moment for me that like sticks out that sort of represents the season. I think there are a lot of small moments, like when it was the state sectional, and like the Don Bosco and the St. Joe's games for the counties.
Those were
2 of the most exciting games I've ever been a part of in my life.
Do you think like winning that much in high school gave you this like love on the inside for baseball that made you wanted to keep playing?
100%, because I saw how much fun it could be. Like if I went through 4 years of high school, or even that last year, just losing every game, I'd be like, fuck this. Like I don't want to spend another 4 years just losing. But like I saw what a true winning season felt like, and it really wanted to make me continue that.
I think that definitely helped out with my decision going forward. Also, when you're on a winning program like that, and your coaches are kind of on you not on you mentally, but they're putting you on the right track. Like, how Gams is, and Gams just kind of gets you fired up and everything like that. Definitely was a huge factor. I am going to share this real quick. Let me know if you guys can see this. I just wanted to throw this out here.
Oh, look at that baby Brodsky on the mound. How much do you think you weighed at that point?
That was about to be my first comment. That was me 40 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
Hold on, I messed it up, bro. I had it set up. There it is. Look at him. Check your boy out right there also.
That's Mark and Brodsky working
out. And that's Paul right there. Brodsky's just shoving and shoving.
You know what's crazy? Like I see those videos, and like I compare myself to now. Like in those videos in high school, my mechanics way off. Velo down from what it is now. Hat significantly tilted to the side. Yet I would go 4 innings, 8 Ks.
See, he's right. Yeah, he tilted to the side this way. Pick somebody off like 50 times in a row.
Something I've learned about playing a lot of years with Brodsky is very superstitious. He loves his superstitions, and he does them so that he can keep performing at the highest level. What are those, any superstitions you want to share with listeners like that you have?
I mean, As if you don't know all of them, Paul and I are throwing partners now. We have been since we've been on the same team. And the first 3 throws of every catch play that we do is I'll be standing straight up and I'll flick a ball to him that has to have the perfect backwards rotation. And then the next one will be 7 rotations from underhand in circles and then 7 rotations overhand. I'll do my stretches.
Go 5 backwards, 5 forward.
I'll do my stretches in the same order every time I go out there. Right before the inning starts, I bend down in a crow's pose and stretch my groin. Some people used to think that I was praying or saying some shit. It was never, ever, ever about that. Always just stretching.
Yeah.
I just always remember when I would hand the ball back to you, it would always have to be fist bump, then ball drop, and then dab up. Because I would go to give it to you, and then you would just like hold your hand out, like I was a fucking alien or some shit like that. And we got
even one now that is even if it's not with a friend or during catch play, I can never be handed the ball. It always has to be tossed. Like when I went in, what was that game Monday? When I went in on Monday, I got to the mound after running out from the bullpen, and our coach put the ball in my glove. I took it out, tossed it in the air, and then caught it. And like I don't think anyone noticed it just because it's so simple. But like in my mind, I'm like, okay, now we're good to go.
I think I'm gonna start noticing that now, because you never really see a coach toss a ball to a pitcher.
I know, yeah. So it's just like it's your turn now. They give you the ball.
Yeah, something I think I really like about baseball and the culture of a locker room is it's not superstitions, but you see like how people go about their day every single day. Like, and you have these similar interactions with people, but also it's like comforting to know that like, all right, I have some routines. This person has some routines. We're on a winning ball club. We're all going to do what we need to do to make ourselves feel 100% to go out there and perform. And so far this year, Brodsky's thrown 6 2/3. He's somehow 3-0 as a pitcher with a 0 ERA. And 7 Ks. So Brodsky's off to a great start this year. Really, really important arm out of the pen for Tampa right now. So what was your recruiting process out of high school? Where else were you looking? I know for the listeners, Emory is kind of basically like a step below Ivy League. It's basically Ivy League.
It's a ridiculously smart school.
Yeah, I know Brodsky's brain up there is functioning at a faster speed than most. So what was the recruiting process like out of high school? Where else were you looking?
So the goal that I talked to my parents about out of high school was that I wanted to use baseball to get me into a school that I normally would not have been able to based on my regular academics, and it worked with Emory. I was also looking at schools like Tufts, University of Chicago, some of the Ivy Leagues like Penn, Brown. And I never really, I've had this conversation later. Obviously, I do not regret my decision going to Emory 1000%. I would do it again. No, I would do it again knowing if I'd known everything that would come from it. But yeah. I've spoken to my dad before, and we've said that like seeing how the last 4 years played out with COVID and things that have gotten canceled and whatnot, I think I would have put more of an effort into looking at certain D1 schools that may not have been around the country, whatever, but that would have taken baseball more competitively. Because once I got to Emory, I was very excited and everything, and I had a really good freshman year, but COVID it screwed us, and we got screwed out of 2 entire seasons. And I think that kind of like derailed my baseball path. Which is so crazy to say, because you still did throw 111 innings at Emory. So you threw a lot of innings, but COVID for everyone, especially, baseball players, any sport players, it was really detrimental to a lot of people's, college careers or wherever they were at in their career.
And it ended a lot of careers.
It ended some full programs. There were some schools that I heard about that just completely eradicated their baseball program.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's just like, what?
So then, what ended up making you choose Emory at the end of the recruiting process?
I think my final 3 schools, Penn and Brown both basically said that they decided to go with someone else. So I was like, all right, at least you made the decision for me. But it came down to Tufts, Emory, and UChicago. And Tufts, I think, what sent me away from them is that on my visit, they sort of linked me up with seniors there. And I think that it made me the most comfortable, but at the same time, I was hanging out with kids who I was never even going to be playing with. So it's like I would have shown up, but I never really wouldn't have known anyone on the team. And then Emory, I think what sold me was Paul and I guess we all have a friend whose brother went to Emory, and I was associated Emory as more of a bigger name school. So that's what I also wanted in a school that I was going to go to. And Emory fit that criteria, but also Atlanta was just so nice. Yeah. There was so much to do in Atlanta. And when people ask me now, what do I like about Emory the most? Like one of the first things I say is, I obviously love the school, but one of the things that I really loved was the city of Atlanta and how much you could do there.
So this is kind of an interesting transition point. So Brodsky goes from playing, growing up in New Jersey, playing in the tri-state area. Then he goes and plays college baseball in Atlanta and Georgia, which is probably a huge difference. Really liked going down into a new city, playing there. And then his junior year summer, I believe, he goes and plays in Minnesota in the Northwoods Collegiate Summer League. So going from New Jersey to Atlanta and then all of a sudden to Minnesota, for the listeners, the Northwoods League is probably like a top 3, top 4 summer league for college baseball players. Brodsky, tell us a little bit about your experience in Minnesota. What was that like? How was your host family? Kind of take the listeners to what it's like going to play summer ball out in Minnesota, growing up in New Jersey.
Dude, that was an experience overall. There's no adjective to put before that. That was just an experience.
And let alone that he just gets in the car and drives to Minnesota by himself and has to drive home by himself.
I drove there. It wasn't straight. It was a 17-hour drive. I drove 12 hours to Indiana, stayed overnight, then drove the next 5 the next day.
What?
Yeah, that is that. I remember calling you like 2 or 3 times throughout your drive to just try to help you stay awake.
Which was worse? I want you to go back to it, but which was worse, that or driving down to Tampa?
That.
Yeah.
You know how much farmland I drove through for how long driving to Minnesota? Oh my God. It was insane. I was listening. I was taking a summer class at the time, business law. I was listening to the same podcast 3 times in a row that were 45 minutes each, just so I could be able to pass the time and learn it. That's crazy. That's psychotic.
And then you still had another 15 hours.
Yeah, exactly. The amount of big booty remixes that I went through.
Oh my God. So what was that experience like? Yeah.
So that summer actually started. I was supposed to have a temp contract with the Cape. That didn't pan out because they started later and guys were coming up and they really didn't need any temp guys, which I understood.
Right after COVID, yeah.
So then I started to reach out to the guy who helped me get to the Cape. For 2 days, I was supposed to go to the CPL and play with the Savannah Bananas. Then that didn't pan out. And then the next day he was like, hey, there's a spot on a Northwoods team. Do you want to go? The next day I was in the car driving.
Oh my God.
But the way when I got there, they had already played like 4 or 5 games. But when I say that is the one league that's treated like a minor league program, like that is really treated like you play every single day. There were 3 off days because of the All-Star break, like when they had their own All-Star game where I was able to come home. But other than that, the only time you got off was if a game was canceled. But I would describe it to people, my experience there, as like Groundhog Day. I'd wake up, I'd make breakfast. It was either scrambled eggs or protein pancakes. And then I'd either do some homework, go to the gym, and then it was at the field from 2 o'clock till 11 o'clock.
Yeah. So I played in the Coastal Plains League, so that I had a very similar experience, and you're playing almost every day. But it was like you said, very similar days every single day. But it was fun. I mean, I loved being with a new group of guys. Brodsky, who did you play with? Probably schools from all over. Like, what were some of the schools of players you were playing with?
I played with some guys who went to UNC, some guys who went to University of Minnesota. One of my friends was 2 of my friends who I still talk to. One went to Augustana. There's another D2, and then another went to Lipscomb. I think that's in Tennessee.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would play guys from all over, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Virginia, whatever it was. But it was like you said, yeah, Paul, like you said, I enjoyed being there, being with like a bunch of new guys, learning like to be around a new group of people from 2:30 to 11 o'clock every day. But I was also on my own, by myself for a lot of it, because my host family, like they were super nice, always took care of me. If I ever needed them to get some certain groceries, they would, whatever. But their schedules just didn't align with mine. So when I would get back, they'd be sleeping. When I'd wake up, they'd be gone for work. And so it was a lot of the day was just, if I wasn't at baseball, I was just doing my own thing, which I didn't mind. But it definitely took some getting used to.
That's a long time to yourself in Minnesota. So,
Yeah.
so when you're saying it's like a minor league schedule and you're playing every single day like that, obviously you're not pitching every single day like that. So what's like an off day look like? You're still going and everything, but like, what does that look like?
So an off day in terms of my personal off day, but we still have a game and everything.
Yeah, like you just pitch, and then the next 3 or 4 days you're still on the move. And
if I just pitched the next day, I'm definitely going in to get a lift in. They gave us like these cards that essentially gets us all access to the gym, like their local gym. That was really nice. That was really beneficial. Even if I wanted to go and not use the gym, just shoot the basket, shoot around, go to the pool, whatever. But then I'd get to the field. I do a lot of post throw activities, a lot of arm care stuff. And then I'd get a light toss in, but then I'd just be watching the game.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we had a bigger roster than normal. So there would be games where if the coach knew that you weren't going to play, you wouldn't be considered active. So you'd have to sit in the stands, which happened to me a few times, which wasn't bad. You know, I get to go get some food, watch a game, be on my phone.
Go on your phone, yeah.
Exactly. So those days honestly weren't the worst, but if I could choose, I would have chosen to never be non-active, because always sitting in the bullpen, like just shooting the shit with the guys when it's the second inning and you're sitting with 10 guys who are not going to go into at least the seventh. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of banter back and forth.
So much.
It was probably some of the most fans you played in front of too, right? Like how is the fan base out in Northwoods?
There were some at our stadium. I'd say the most we'd get on a night would be like 600. And that was like the most, like that was like July 4th night. I'd say on an average night, it was like 200 maybe. But when we would go to some states, I remember we went to, it was either Nebraska or it was Wisconsin, one of the two states. But we played a team where in that town, all they had was that team. Like the kids grew up rooting for that team. So they were loaded with fans. Like they clearly put so much money into the stadium and everything. And I pitched in that game. I threw an inning and a third. That was a real eye opener for me, because I had never pitched in front of that many people before. I was more nervous about that than I actually was about performing.
That's interesting though. It's a summer league team. Unless they do it all year round, but it's a summer league team that they're kind of just putting all of their stuff into all year round. Like
I know exactly.
It's like high school football in Texas.
If you look up the Coastal Plains League, it's like in North Carolina, Virginia. Every summer they sell season tickets. They all play in really nice stadiums, and baseball down south is just way more desired. Is what I'm fully realizing is. Like people down south just love going to baseball, love, making their family, one of their family nights, going to a baseball game. And when you can go for like $5 to $10 to, a college summer league, great baseball. And you have a nice atmosphere. We had a beer garden in right field. It was a lot of fun. So transitioning a little bit, Brodsky, this year you've been clocked up to what, 95 miles per hour on the fastball?
Yeah.
Or what's
you hit 5?
So
it was, apparently I was told it was a 4.7. So me personally, I don't count that as a 5, but to the hitter that I was throwing against, he counts it as a 5 because it sounds a lot cooler when he says he struck out against it. So I'll let people decide what they want.
Yeah. So, I mean, you haven't always been throwing this hard. When did you see your biggest velo jump? What would you recommend to younger listeners out there on how to gain velo? Kind of just talk about like where you found your biggest jump and what you would recommend to people trying to gain some velo.
So my biggest jump definitely came the fall of my junior year at Emory, because that was right smack dab in the middle of COVID, and we weren't having fall practices. So we were supposed to be on our own, doing our own thing. So I found a baseball specific training facility in Georgia called Pinnacle. They've gone so much further since then, but I basically only focused on velo, and I was in bullpens inside. I was sitting like 93, 95. And that was really exciting for me because I was never really hitting numbers like that. I mean, there was one video when Paul and I were seniors in high school of me hitting 92.9, but I don't even think I would throw that hard in game. I think that was just something amped me up for that one moment.
Was I catching you for that at Hills?
No, that was,
I think it was at RPP.
RPP. Yeah. But yeah, there was at Pinnacle, I got up to 93, 95. But I don't regret it, but I regret the fact that I didn't focus on throwing strikes, because I think I was only focusing on velocity and not command, and that kind of set me on a downward path. So if I were to say something to younger baseball players now, is that velocity is not everything, even though it looks cool and it looks cool to other people. Command is where you'll get more attention from. But since then, I kind of just been cruising, trying to maintain that 93, 95 while working on command.
Yeah, and it's worked really well. I mean, you're throwing the ball really well right now. It's a lot of fun to watch. You got any more questions, Mark?
Yeah, I just kind of want to get into a little bit more of like I guess you could say a mentality question. So in high school, Brodsky, like obviously I'm not saying you were small in high school or anything. Like you still have massive forearms and everything and whatnot. But obviously in high school, let's just get this out of the way now. Brodsky has some of the craziest forearms. Brodsky, I kind of want to ask you to show it, but I'll get back to that later. But look at that guy. He's had that since freaking 7th grade. But anyway, so going from like kind of not being small or anything in high school, but now you're obviously like you definitely gained more weight, a lot more muscle, and you've kind of like been on a good diet and like have a set routine and everything out. Like, can you kind of like go through like your like day-to-day mentality, like sticking with all that stuff? Because I know that you stick with it to like a day-to-day thing, and you don't really like, you're not really one of those guys that like will just be like, fuck it, like let's just like go do something else and like go off track. But like, you kind of just like give me some of like your daily mentality, like, okay, like I'm gonna get lunch, like I'm gonna eat this instead of going get some fucking pizza or something like that, like whatever.
So I used to have that mentality like in high school, obviously when I was just 175, and then it didn't get until the summer going into my sophomore year at Emory where I was just a complete animal. I was playing summer baseball, but I wasn't working a job or anything. So it was eat, lift, play. And most of what I was eating were protein shakes and Chipotle. And so since then, it was just like, once I saw that I was able to put on this mass and gain the velo, I sort of, in my head, this is going to sound a little psychotic. If I eat like a scoop of ice cream, a chocolate pretzel, a candy bar, in my head, I'm thinking that you're doing something bad to your body, and it's going to cost you on the mound. So when I think about that, there are a lot of times where I'm like, don't eat it. So there will be times where I'll be like, I want to go get some food for after practice. Pizza's 10 feet to my left, but I'm willing to take the time to drive over to Publix, grab ground beef and white rice, cook that, and make that just because it's a smarter decision. But
you think ahead a little bit more.
A lot. But I also tell myself a lot of things, how detrimental it would be more than it actually would, to psych myself out so that I don't say fuck it.
Yeah, I feel it. And that's kind of just like compounding it a little bit. Like that's just like instead of having like maybe like 1 or 2 cheat days a week, like bigger cheat days, like that'll fuck you up a little bit more. But where like it's kind of like compounding is that like the little small things, like a chocolate covered pretzel or like a small piece of candy or like a freaking M&M, like all of those little things that the little battles that you can kind of just be like, nah, like I don't need that right now. That's probably what got you to where you are right now.
Yeah, 100%.
I think something too, like being at Tampa, in my mentality, and I think me and Brodsky have talked about this, it's like everyone is so good. There's guys on our team who haven't thrown a whole bunch of innings, and it's not because they're not good. it's because there's just not enough innings in the week. And me and Brodsky know that, like, if we're not going to take this seriously and we're not going to do whatever we need to do to stay on the field, there's someone who's chomping at the bits right behind us who might be able to come up and take our spot. And that's something that baseball players in general have to see, is like the minor leagues. I know that for the listeners out there who know what the minor leagues are like, we know what it's like. It's a grind. People think like you get to the league and you make millions of dollars and it's an easy. They have to grind through living in really small host family houses, shitty hotel rooms, barely getting paid. So are you willing to, Brodsky, is that something that you're mentally prepared for if your name's called in this year's draft? Are you ready to go and grind for some years? And
1,000%.
Yeah,
without a doubt, not even a second question. Yeah. That's something that I've wanted to be a part of, just be able to, whether it's draft or sign or just a chance to move further and continue to play. That would just be a dream come true. Like, I would not take that for granted. And there, like you said, like there are times where I'll be doing something, I'll be like watching Netflix, or even sometimes like doing homework, and I'll be like, I could be doing something that could be bettering myself for baseball. So I'll start stretching or some shit. Bust out a lacrosse ball, work on some grips. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like that little like crazy like psycho in your head like that.
Yeah.
I feel like more people need. We're like even I'll do it sometimes. Like, I don't know, like it's totally different for me, but like a lot of my friends here like aren't athletes, and they just sit and play video games all day, and like they're inside, and like I can't even sit in my room like for 10 minutes and just like not feel like a piece of shit. Like I'm just like, I got to do something, and I feel like that's something that more people should start to realize a little bit. We don't have that much time.
Yeah, and like Paul said, like I'm just gonna emphasize it. Like you see how many teams are in the MLB, like the big show, and you see how many players are on each of those teams. There's 5-6 times that in minor leagues, and then 12 to 15 times that in college. So as you move up a level, high school
players too.
It's just the sample size of baseball players just gets slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And like, you need to have that sort of mentality if you want to continue to play.
Brodsky, actually, something that's interesting that you bring up is like all the different types of players. And we had the opportunity to go to the Dominican Republic with Tampa. What was that experience like for you, seeing these kids over there? I wrote an article about it. Just like, it's baseball or nothing. There's no plan B. So what was your experience like going over to the DR?
I mean, you kind of just summed it up in those 3 words. It's baseball or nothing. There were guys who, I think it was our 3rd game when we were playing the Navy, and we were sitting in the dugout and then the bullpen, and I look behind me in the fence. I mean, it was like a regular Thursday afternoon, like kids our age and here in America, like they're in school, they're in 7th period science, whatever, learning about some bullshit that they're never going to use again in life. But these kids are out there on a wooden mound doing towel drills with some guy who may have baseball experience, may not, but they're getting their work in, because if they don't make money playing baseball, they're not going to make money at all. And it's like, they have way worse. Sometimes, and like, honestly, the thought came to me, if I wasn't blessed with all these facilities and tools and everything that I could use to better myself, would I actually be better because I have nothing else to fall back on? It's if I had the mentality, if baseball or nothing, would I be better than I am right now?
Interesting.
And it made me think about it.
There's the flip though too, where it's like you wouldn't have had those experiences in your younger mental, where you're loving baseball because you're at these nice fields, you're getting to travel around the world, you're meeting new kids. So there's definitely devil's advocate there, where both sides.
They're definitely both sides.
Yeah. All right, Brodsky, this was great. I mean, I know we could definitely talk for probably way longer than the time period we have allotted for today, but we're always ending our episodes now with a segment called You Scratch My Back, I Scratch Yours. So we're going to be scratching off this lottery ticket right now, see if we can help you win some millions.
So if this wins, how does this work?
Braydon. How does it work?
Do we split this? Do I get all of it? What's good here?
Basically, I would just tell you it's not a winner. I would go cash it by myself and elevate the benefit.
I was thinking about that before, Paul. Like, if last week's I forget who it was. If last week's hit with the 50K, what would we have done with that?
That was a Danny Mercanti.
We just give him
I'm thinking,
50?
No, I'm thinking we give the interviewee at least half of it, whatever the number is. And we put the rest towards Elevate so that we can keep helping these athletes get more deals and more of what they want. So, Brett, your winning numbers are 2, 9. Those are your winning numbers.
2 and 9?
Okay. 2 and 9.
That's actually crazy because my lucky number is 18.
How does that have any correlation?
2 times 9 is 18.
Okay.
Emory.
Yeah,
that's a step ahead. This guy's a step ahead. He's playing chess over here.
So I scratched this one off a little differently. So you can see your winning numbers. There is a 9 right
It's a 9.
here. So it is a winner. It's just a matter of how much.
Wait, what is the max I can win? What is the max?
100,000.
Holy shit.
Oh my God.
And it's a good old fashioned $2.
Yes, sir. Come on. Make money today.
We can split that 3 ways.
Okay. We can split that 3 ways. We can go buy a nice gumball with that. But Brodsky, thank you for coming on today. It was great. You're always invited.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll get you back on again soon after the season's over. Maybe when your name's up in the draft. And
Jack Brodsky, ladies and gentlemen.
Some more to talk about. But Brodsky, thanks for coming on. And I'll probably come over to your room in a little bit and beat you up.
It's been awesome. Thank you, guys. I'll see you.
No problem. All right, we just finished up our interview with Jack Brodsky. Next, we'll be having on Anthony Nunez. But before that, Mark was starting to say something before Brodsky decided to jump on and just completely ruin our whole interview. So, Mark,
cut it off, ruin the whole freaking Brodsky. No, I did just want to reach out or let all the listeners or viewers know, if you're a coach or anything, if you run lessons, if you run camps, if you just do like little hour lessons with 7U baseball trainers, if you have any sort of account, Elevate, we definitely are interested and are currently working with coaches in taking over their social media. So one guy that we're working with right now, former Rowan baseball player Drew Ryback. He's a Rowan legend, holds a bunch of records, whatnot. He started his own pitching clinic called Ryback Regimen. And for any coaches out there, he started his Ryback Regimen and came to us and asked us to get somebody out there to film his lessons, cut up some videos, turn them into reels, and kind of take over his social media. So that is just one of the things that are kind of under the Elevate umbrella that we do offer to coaches or any sort of influencer out there who's looking to get a little bit more traction on their social media. So I did just want to shout that out right now and just give Drew Ryback some credit with the Ryback Regimen. We had a big clinic coming up this Sunday. If you're in South Jersey, definitely would check it out. But yeah, I did just want to throw that out there for any coaches or listeners out there too.
Yeah, we're trying to do a bunch of different things over here at Elevate. We know we're pretty good so far at growing social media pages, keeping up to date with videos and high quality content. So we created a package that we offer to some coaches who need help running their pages. So something that if any coaches out there are listening to this and you want to reach out, definitely let us know. But also,
could be coaches from anywhere. It doesn't really matter where you are. We have connections wherever you are. We will get somebody to film wherever you are, whatever you need. Definitely would reach out if you have any interest, though.
Yeah, we're starting to do a whole bunch of different things here. We're still recruiting some athletes as well. If you're a college athlete looking to continue your career professionally, don't ever be afraid to reach out to us on our social media pages. We'll get back to you. We're active on those. We'll check you out. And if we feel like we can help you out and you can help us out, we'll definitely figure out something. So just a little bit background on Anthony Nunez, who's about to hop on. He was drafted in the 29th round of the 2019 MLB draft by the San Diego Padres. And he went and played 2 years with the Padres in their minor league organizations. And now he is at the University of Tampa after getting released. So, you know, it's a grind, like we talked about with Brodsky, making your way through the minor league system. And Anthony has had the opportunity to come back to college, potentially earn a degree while playing at, you know, the best D2 school potentially in the nation. So he is going to have a lot of cool stories to tell. He just texted me that he's hopping on soon. Yeah, I'll say it when he comes on, but Anthony was the first Tampa player to put his trust in me and join Elevate. So I definitely do want to thank him about that.
I want to kind of just ask while we still have a second before he gets on, how is it living with Brodsky?
Oh, it's great. He actually is such an underratedly good cook. So
really,
like sometimes I'll just be able to be like doing work on my computer at the dining room table, and he's just chefing up. Like he's really good at cooking chicken. I'm probably kind of the pasta guy. He can chef up some chicken, rice, throw it in a pan. He makes a good olive oil sauce. I don't know where he found this like recipe to put on like the pasta and the chicken. And we eat a lot of food together. He'll make it, and
so he's the cook. He's the cook over there.
He's more of the cook than me, but I'm not bad. Don't be sleeping on my cooking abilities.
I got
you. He's definitely. He likes his meals cooked a certain way. So if he wants to cook it, and I'm really not a picky eater at all, I'll let him chef it up. He's a good cook, and it always satisfies me.
Hopefully I'll be able to help out a little bit next year also once we get down there.
Yeah, come down here and start living the Tampa lifestyle with us, because this place down here is.
I can't wait to get out of Jersey. It's so cold here right now. It's unfair.
Yeah. What are you doing the rest of the day? So 10:45 on Wednesday right now. We're recording this.
10:45 on a Wednesday. After this, I do have a class at 12:30. We'll see about that. But after that, definitely going to go to the gym, definitely have some schoolwork to do, and then some stuff with Drew Ryback later tonight. He has a clinic 6 to 7, so me and one of the interns will go over there, film him for an hour, and then it'll probably be the day, honestly.
Nice.
Kind of getting after it. Maybe go back to the gym for a second time for some cardio. You know, we're going to spring break next week. Kind of got to get after it a little bit.
Where are you going for spring break?
Miami.
Yeah, get a little Miami trip.
I'm definitely
Maybe you can also do some recruiting down there.
I was
go to a Miami baseball game.
Miami baseball game, and we're definitely going to go to a WBC game also. So
that would be sick. Definitely take some video of that.
I sent out.
And if you see the Israel team, you'll see at one of our players, Alex Katz.
Oh, Alex Katz! I'll see you down there.
Yeah. Now we got Anthony Nunez loading in right now. Seeing his name pop up. Anthony, are you there?
Yo.
What's up, Noonie? Thanks for joining in. Just so you know, we are recording already. We always start recording right away with our athletes, so there's nothing behind the scenes. I just want to start off by saying thank you for coming on. Noonie was the first Tampa player to join Elevate, put his trust in us, and I'm happy to have you on the pod today. This is going to be another interesting, fun interview for me, because I get to share a locker room every day with Noonie, and this is cool. We get to block out some time, talk a little more about all your college baseball and professional baseball experiences. But let's start off by talking about your high school career. So you grew up in Miami. When did you realize that you wanted to go play either professional ball or collegiate baseball? Like, when did you know that you had a special talent, and what were some of the club teams you played on growing up?
I mean, I feel like just growing up, that was like always the ultimate goal, just play college baseball, play professional baseball. Growing up, I played for multiple teams. I played for the PPO Bengals. Was my first teams were like in club ball, and then the PPO Bengals was my first travel ball team when I was 8. And then we went to a team in Miami called Latino Americana. Then it was MVP was like the main team that we really started like realizing like, oh, like we are like good at this. We might have a chance within our future with this. And then just little by little going up to high school, it was just grinding every day, just going to that ultimate goal, which was at the time for me going to play college baseball.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you, what was it like growing up in Miami? I just feel like, I mean, we're both from New Jersey. I feel like Miami's kind of a wild place to grow up.
Baseball is more prevalent, I feel like, down there.
Yeah,
but Nooney can answer that.
That's all there is for us. Like baseball in Miami, when you're a baseball player in Miami, that's what you do 24/7. That's what you do every day, every week. Like you don't have a month off. You don't have 2 weeks off. Like the most I've ever had off my whole life was probably a week. And I think it was because I was injured, or 2 weeks because I was and it's never like okay, let's take a vacation or let's take a break from baseball.
I feel.
Yeah. So I gave a little background on you before you joined in. But when did you start getting recruited out of high school and what were the colleges looking like? Because obviously you ended up getting drafted in the 29th round by the Padres, so you didn't end up having to go to college right out of high school. But if you were you getting recruited by any schools? I don't think I've ever talked to you about this.
I mean, I had one college offer out of high school. It was to St. Thomas University. That's where I committed to.
St. Thomas, and where is that in?
In Miami.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I started talking to coaches my summer before going into my senior year. So it was playing with the Evil Shield Canes with JD. And it was
JD Urso, shortstop on our team. Nooney played with when he was younger, before he even knew he would ever end up coming to Tampa.
Yep, my first college visit was to St. Pete College because of Joe Urso, which is our head coach now. He liked me as a player that summer. He doesn't recruit high school guys often, so he told me he wanted me to go to JUCO and then get bigger, stronger, and then end up at Tampa, which I was on board with that. I wanted to come to Tampa. I went to Florida Southwestern for a visit. They offered me a walk-on spot. St. Pete offered me a walk-on spot. And I think that's it. And then I went to St. Thomas and they offered me a full ride. And then I committed there.
So that's crazy. So you were committed to St. Thomas. And then did you have a crazy senior year, which ended up putting you on the radar for a bunch of different MLB teams?
I wouldn't say it's crazy. I think they just saw the tools that I had. It wasn't like stats that they were looking at for me. I hit like 360, 3 home runs. I had like 30 runs in 20 games, but that's about it. Like it wasn't like I had a high on base percentage, probably like 500, I think, but
still sound like pretty freaking good numbers though.
Yeah, that's definitely still not bad numbers, but something I was telling Mark about is, I mean, you could hop on the mound and throw 90 plus potentially if you wanted to. So your tools and the way you move in the field and you know the IQ you have for the game is something the scouts probably saw. Well, was 2019 COVID or no?
No.
So 2020. Were you in pro ball during COVID?
Yeah.
So what was?
How was
so
that?
We can transition a little bit. Yeah. What was the pro ball experience like? You were in a locker room straight out of high school. And, you know, some of these guys are probably 28, 29 years old. I don't know the level you were at, how old these guys were, but how was it meshing with these guys? Like you're a high school kid basically going and trying to compete for the same job they are.
Yeah. When I signed out of high school, I was 17. I was 6'2", 6'1", 170 pounds. And there's a lot of, mainly the guys that were there were college guys. There was other high school guys, but they were all like way bigger than me too. So it was mainly like older guys and then second year guys or Dominican guys that are making their first year in the U.S. In pro ball. And it was mainly just like getting adjusted to everything. Because for me, it was just like I would go out there and just play and it would have fun and it was easy to me. But when I got there, that was the first time since like my junior year that I actually like started struggling and like realizing like, oh shoot, like this is not easy.
You're going to face probably 95 plus every time you're going out there.
You were happy to see 92, 93.
That's so crazy. Now, you know, we see good arms. I mean, I've been really impressed with the baseball that we've been playing, obviously, but also the baseball we're playing against. D2 conferences are no joke. Like this Southern SSC conference is good baseball players all around.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing for me, I was talking to our coach, Scott McNulty, because I had a great fall and then coming into the spring in the inter squads, I was just struggling a little bit. And he was just telling me like to slow the game down a little bit because like obviously I played at a higher level where everything is sped up And then the game here is like a lot slower compared to that, which it's still not super slow, but it's a lot slower. So he was just telling me, like, just go out there, have fun, man. Like, just find your one pitch to hit on that bat and make the most out of it. Just slow everything down.
Yeah, when you were traveling in pro ball, what was that like? Like, are you getting on buses with these guys? And obviously, for the listeners out there, like something we do at Tampa, like we'll play a game called Mafia. Like you're all playing, trying to like pass the time on bus rides, doing whatever you can to have some fun with the guys. But I feel I don't know if it's just a misconception I have, but in pro ball, is it like that where like guys are trying to mesh on bus rides, or is everyone doing their own things, or what was that like?
Is it more competitive?
Yeah, I mean, a rookie ball, the furthest drive was probably like 45 minutes.
Okay.
So it was just like everybody's just chilling on their phones, relaxing before the game. When I got to low A, it was like the same thing. It's just there were longer bus rides. There were 4 or 8 hours, depending on where you were going. But for the most part, everybody was just like minding their business, relaxing, sleeping on their phone, listening to music. It wasn't really like bonding or anything. It was just out there playing, doing your job.
What was the communication like with professional organizations while you were a high schooler, but also like about to get drafted? Like, what were they calling you? Did you have an agent at the time? Like, how was the communication between a high schooler and a professional organization?
Yeah, I mean, it was right like at our half point of my senior year. And then I got a text from a Padres scout. It said, hey, this is Brian Cruz from the San Diego Padres. And I thought it was a prank. I thought someone was messing with me. And then I look at it again. Then I come out and I'm just like laughing because I had a good game or we walked that off or something. And then my mom was out there and she looks at me. She's like, hey, did you get a text? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, I thought they were messing with me. She was like, no, like he called me and he asked for your number. And I was like, oh, shoot, like this is crazy. And then that same day or the next day, there was a University of Miami game that I went to talk to him and like to watch the game with my friend. And he was just telling me like how it works, how the process is. And he told me that the game he saw me was actually our first game of the season where I hit a triple, like they were watching the pitcher for the other team. I hit a triple like in the first pitch of the game. And then they liked me from that day and they were like keeping up with me and I had no idea. And they were just, since that day, they kept watching and then they decided to contact me like halfway through the season.
Wow.
Awesome.
That is really cool. So once you were released, how quickly did you know that you wanted to go to college ball? Like, what was the whole process like after playing a little college ball and then being able to go back to college and play? Because this is, I mean, something that you already had professional experience and now you're back playing college ball. This is probably extremely cool experience for you too.
Yeah, I mean, I got released in August, I believe, late August, like the 27th, 28th, around there. And I called my mom and she was telling me to go back to college. And I was like, no, that is not happening. And then I realized she was saying to play baseball. And I was like, okay, that'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I texted the coach from where I was committed, St. Thomas, because I had heard of this happening to people before. So I knew I couldn't go Division I and I couldn't go JUCO. So I contacted JD. I said, hey, does your dad know like anything about these rules, like how it would work and where I'd be able to go? And then he put me in contact with Joe Urso again. And he just explained to me like that I could come to Tampa. And then I came for a workout probably in September, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after I got released. And then I just committed to play here.
Did it have any effect on your mentality going forward with having you want to play baseball, like in general, after you got released? Or like, what was kind of like your mental after that going forward?
No, for sure. It took a toll on me mentally. I mean, even until last year, like even until the fall of this year or this past fall, it was just like a struggle mentally. I feel like I had the skills. I've had the skills, and then I couldn't put it together because of my mental state. It wasn't like I was struggling like with mental health, but it was like I had no confidence out there. I was playing with no confidence.
In your head. Yeah. I know what you mean. So
you're an 18-year-old, a 17 and 18-year-old trying to go out there and compete for a sport you played for fun your whole life, and now you're seeing a paycheck behind it. And if you're not performing, the coaches can be like, hey, like, you know, we're paying you to do this now. Like, it's different. It's something that people don't realize, and the grind of minor leagues is so tough.
Yeah.
So how was it mentally, like, overcoming all of that? Or, like, still to this day, honestly?
It was it was tough. In the spring last year, like my numbers didn't show it. Like I felt fine. The umpires are different, the pitching is different, everything is different. So like I would come here, I'm taking pitches that are balls, and then they're calling them strikes, and I'm like I know that's not a strike. And then I go back into the
Yeah.
video, and it's like that's not a strike. I was right. So then I have to try to make an adjustment with that. And then it was just like I hit 230, I believe, but I had like a 450 on base percentage. So I was taking right pitches, and then I would get into the right counts, not take advantage of it. So then I was like, damn, like why am I not hitting this 87-mile-an-hour fastball? And I'm getting down the middle, 2-0 count, and then I'm like leaning towards like, all right, now I want to walk instead of like 3-1, I want to swing. And it was just like losing the confidence. So it was just mainly just this fall helped me a lot. Being able to, like, I had a good fall that just boosted my confidence a lot. So when I was struggling in the spring, it wasn't as bad with my confidence. I knew I was just like, man, just go out there and play. And it transitioned pretty well for me.
Yeah, now Nooney's batting 377 with 416 OBP and
Both
493 slugging. Yeah, from both sides of the plate. So I'd say you're having a pretty good start to the year. What do you see as the biggest differences between like a pro ball type practices, culture, and a top 5 every year nationally ranked Tampa team? Like, what is the culture like? What are the differences and similarities you've seen?
I mean, Coach Durso does a great job. Like, the first thing he told me when I came on my visit was like, this is like a professional environment. And he was not lying. It's like, if you want to get better, you're going to get better. They'll help you get better. But if you don't want to get better, like, they're not going to be out there trying to push you to reach levels that you don't want to reach. If you want to reach that level, they'll help you reach it. But if it's like, oh, I'm out here just having fun, like, it's not going to be, they're not going to be out there like, hey, come on, man, like, you got to get better. They're just going to go to the next guy.
Yeah. So that's something we were talking about with Brodsky too, is there's so many good players on this team. And even like past the starting 9, there's a bunch of guys who don't get to play every day who are great ball players. And it's like, we know the guys who are playing every day, like, if you don't do what you need to do, you're going to probably come out of the lineup. If you're not performing, like, there's plenty of guys chomping behind you to get on the field.
Sure.
And even guys on the JV team too, who are clawing away to get their shot to be on the varsity team too. Any of those guys would give their leg to go up to varsity. So there's definitely a lot of competition behind that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of guys that are like XD1 guys, like big schools, Power 5 schools, that they come over here and sometimes they don't even play here. So it's just like he always has the next guy to go to. Like, you're never safe or comfortable in your position.
No, and I think that's something that's built such a good culture. When did you start switch hitting? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
I was 13.
13? And what were you originally, a righty or a lefty?
Righty.
Wow.
Yeah,
and now you hit lefty probably more than you hit righty because you see a lot more righty arms.
The first coach to ever let me hit lefty in a game was Orlando Hernandez, the Yankees.
Really?
He was my coach in 13U, 14U. And I would like mess around with it in practice. And I asked him, like, I used to ask all my coaches before, like, if I could mess around with it in the game. They never let me. And he was the first coach to ever let me. In that first tournament, I went 8 for 8 and I hit 1,000 with like 4 doubles.
Holy shit.
Oh my God. That's such a cool story.
Never let me.
So like you would just like practice it on your own hitting lefty?
Yeah.
And then like no coaches would let you. I mean, who's to say that you weren't a lefty before you met this coach? You know, like, that's kind of annoying that you felt like you could do it. And then, I mean, it's great that he let you do it that one time, and then you prove him wrong the first tournament, and you're like, all right, I can hit switch the rest of my life now.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
So I'm kind of wondering a little bit. So, like, obviously you're a phenomenal hitter. You go from the both sides. I've watched you. Like, you're very calm in the box. Like, you have a good rhythm and everything. For younger hitters out there, can you maybe just go through like your pre-approach, your pre-ep? Oh, we lost him.
Oh
boy.
I'm gonna pause it. I resumed it. We'll figure out how to edit that whenever. But Mark, continue asking your question.
Yeah, no, we're good. For the younger guys out there who see you, it could be either switch hitting or not, but what is your kind of like pre-at-bat approach or your at-bat approach when you get in the box? What's going through your head? Just kind of run through that a little bit, if you could.
Yeah, my pre-at-bat is just timing the pitcher. I do 2 or 3 pitches when I'm on deck, maybe that. Sometimes I don't do any pitches if I'm feeling good. And then when I'm at bat, my approach would be just find the one pitch that I could hit and do damage with until I have 2 strikes. So I'll sometimes take a fastball on the outside corner or curveball on the outside corner. That is, I know it's a strike, but I'm not going to swing at it until I have 2 strikes. And when I have 2 strikes, anything close, I just try to put a barrel on it somehow.
Okay. Definitely.
Where did you see your
Are you
biggest
looking
like?
to say?
You
got it. You got it.
Where did you see your biggest jumps in growing up as a player and as a hitter, as a position player? Where did you see like you learned the most? Like who was like a coach that was extremely influential to you, or a team you played on? Anything growing up that really helped you get your game to the next level?
Hitting it would be Gradam hitting was who I was hitting with down south, and then I transitioned to a guy. His name is Brian with Infinite hitting when I got to pro ball, and he definitely helped me with my swing a lot and my approach. And then when I got to pro ball, my defense coach, my defensive coordinator or infield coordinator, Hoop is what we call him. He elevated my game to like the craziest level because in high school, like I would make a lot of easy errors, like just plays that I would have, like I would either be throwing errors or like I'll bobble a ball. And it was just like stupid little things that I look back at now, like just knowing what I know. And it's like, wow, like I can't believe I made any of those errors.
Wow. So there's actually, you and Braydon both got to play in the Cape this summer. And JD, so a few kids from Tampa always get in the Cape. What was your experience like there? What team did you play on? And what was the competition like playing there? Would you say that's comparable to what you were seeing when you were in the minor leagues?
Yeah, I mean, I played in Chatham with the Anglers. It was that environment there. It was like playing against low A arms, low A hitting, which is pretty high level if you ask me, which is pretty much SEC, ACC, all those guys out there. It was like low A and playing in high school fields with high school umpires. So it was just terrible. Like it's fun out there. It's great competition. It's just so pitcher friendly, and you go out there like you're happy to get out there hitting 250.
Why would you say it's so pitcher friendly? Is that because like just the parks, how they play?
Yeah, I mean our home field didn't have a batter's eye with a white house in the background, and when I'm hitting lefty for all of our games, the sun was in my face. The umpires are high school umpires out there, but like obviously you have no excuses, but it is very pitcher friendly, and the arms are great. So it's just like you're at a disadvantage already.
That's so interesting that like such a highly competitive summer league can have high school umpires and facilities like that. Like you would think that they would have everything and beyond, but that is definitely interesting. It's a little bit prettier, I think.
That's why the hitters that go there and mash, that's why they're like, so they get elevated so much higher with the draft stock, because like if you mash there, then you really are a hitter.
Yeah. And that's where you're using, I mean, summer ball leagues, you're using wood bats. It's a little different. In college, you're still allowed to use metal. How do you feel the differences between using wood and using metal? Do you feel a difference?
I feel more comfortable with a wood bat in the aspect of like how it feels in my hand, but obviously like getting away with all like the dink hits or like maybe not catching all of a baseball and it's still getting out of the park with the metal bat.
Yeah. Wow.
I did want to ask about the flow, because I know you didn't always have flow like that, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Is that here to stay? We keeping it?
Yeah, for sure. Last year I did like a mohawk, and it was long, but it was just like a ball of hair like in the back, and you couldn't really see it. Now I'm growing like the whole flow out.
Nooney's been putting this flow together since the fall. We actually drove to St. Pete one week, and Nooney gets in the car and his hair is flying everywhere, and he's so upset that his hair might not look good by the time we get all the way to St. Pete with the windows down and everything. So he's been growing. You probably haven't gotten a haircut in a while, right?
I cut my hair after our spring last year, so in May, because I had dyed it blonde, and then I let it grow out from then until January. I still had like the blonde tips, so I cut like a little bit off in January, and then after that I haven't cut anything else.
Yeah. Fun. Baseball players get to grow out their hair, get some flow going. In season, you got to have a little extra swag to feel good, play good.
For sure.
Who were some of the different schools that you got to play with in the Cape, Nooney? Like what different maybe Power 5 schools or guys you got to get close with that you wouldn't have had the opportunity to unless you went and played?
Yeah, we had arms from Tennessee, Notre Dame, Clemson. We had arms from TCU, BYU, ECU. There was just a bunch of guys with the arms. And then hitters, we had Georgia Southern, we had Clemson, we had Oklahoma State, we had Rice. We had a bunch of guys out there. It was just a bunch of big schools.
And did you ever get talking with these guys about like what their programs are like and ever compare it?
The programs are like most programs are similar. Like the elite programs are mostly similar. The only thing that would be different was just the facilities. Some schools have more resources than others for stuff like that.
Yeah. And was there a lot of scouts at all these games in the Cape?
Yeah.
Like how? Yeah.
So, I mean, there was a good amount of fans every game. So
spot.
they kind of blend in a little bit, but you could tell because they're there early for BP with their clipboards and stuff. There's a good amount.
Yeah, you can always tell when the scouts in the stands, they have a very specific look where it's like maybe a bucket hat, their team that they're representing on their shirt, clipboard, radar gun, sit right behind home plate. Do you ever feel like different knowing that you're playing in front of scouts versus like if you know that there's no scouts, or you just go about your game the same way every time?
When I was younger, I definitely like thought about it different. Like, man, I got to do something today. Like they're here to watch. But one thing that changed that for me was there was a game that the Padres scout was at. I knew they were there. I went, I think, 0 for 4, 0 for 5 with like 2 Ks, and I made like 2 errors. And then I've never been like a hothead that I get upset with like different things or like a bad game. So like I was just cool, kept going about my business, like looking for the next at bat. And after I got drafted, he actually told me one of the main reasons that he signed me was because of how I composed myself and how I reacted after that game and during that game.
That's awesome.
Like since that day, it's just been like, all right, man, just go out there and play, do what you got to do. Like just be you.
I love that story because there's so many stories like that, Mark. You're shaking your head, yes, because there are like, you hear these stories of like scouts going to watch a player, and it's baseball. You can't assume that a player is going to perform at this highest level they're going to, but that's baseball. You hit 3 for 10, you're batting 300, and you have to go about the game the right way the 7 other times you're not getting a hit because you're going to come up in bigger situations throughout the game. You still need to go out there and play defense. So it's something that, you know, younger kids, younger listeners hopefully can learn from you, where it's like you're not just out there and having to perform. Go about the game the right way, play the way the coaches want you to play.
Yeah.
I think that is something that probably pisses me off the most about kids in baseball nowadays, especially younger kids, the way they go about if they have a shitty game or not, if they make an error or start kicking the dirt or walk somebody and start like huffing and puffing on the mound. Like those are controllables. Like that's the only thing that you can control is yourself and the way that you show yourself and your body language and everything. And that's something that coaches and scouts look so much into, because if you can't handle the pressure just playing in a regular game at UT, then what are you going to do when you get up to the big leagues and stuff like that? Like you got to be able to take it. And I think, Paul, when I played with you, that was something that you did pretty awesome too. Like getting rattled, that's something that's a big mental thing for younger guys to learn how to do.
Yeah, I tried. Nooney does a pretty good job with it too. Nooney, actually, what is this movie we got going on? So Nooney's got this deal going on, an NIL deal. So something at Elevate, we're always trying to help. We didn't help out with this one, but Nooney, what is this movie? Maybe you can promote it a little bit for any of the listeners out there.
It's Champions. It's Champions. It's a movie of a coach that gets fired by his like head team. He was like a big coach, and then he got arrested for I think assault. Oh no, I'm sorry. He got arrested because he was texting and driving and crashed into a car, and then his probation or his disciplinary act was to coach kids with special needs, and then he didn't want to do it from the beginning, and that's just the whole movie of him coaching them.
Yeah. So if you're out there, if you have some free time, go see the movie. If there's any theaters near you that are showing it, Nooney, maybe we can cut a clip up with this of you talking about it too, and we can get it out so you can show them that you're promoting it on all your platforms. Nooney is actually huge on TikTok nowadays. He's growing his TikTok page. What is the handle there, Nooney, so that whoever's listening can go follow?
It's Anthony__Nunez.
Yeah. So give Anthony a follow on all his social media accounts. It's something that, you know, we're helping them trying to create some content, but you also create some pretty awesome content yourself. Nooney is definitely a pretty good dancer. I mean, I don't know if anyone gets to see, but he started this trend on our team where after you hit a double, he hits a stanky leg, and it's something that we're trying to, you know, build some team camaraderie around. So that's always a little fun, little tidbit for you there. You got any more questions over there, Mark?
I'm all good.
Yeah. So Nooney, how we've been wrapping up all of these interviews is with a scratch off ticket. And so how we do this is I scratch it off for you. It's called I scratch your back, you scratch mine. So if we win, we were talking about this with Brodsky, like we almost won $50,000 on one of the tickets. Like we just needed to scratch off $50,000. So it was like this whole big buildup. But if we end up winning any money, you'll get basically at least half of it. And then the rest will go back into Elevate so that we can keep trying to grow the company. But I'm gonna start scratching it off now. Have you ever won any scratch off tickets, Nooney?
I think I won when I was like 9 or 10. I didn't win it. My mom did, and I was just scratching it off for her.
And you just saw the ticket.
Yeah, it was like 20.
The winner. Yeah, no, we're trying to win millions here at Elevate for our players.
No, I was cracking up. Whenever we did it, I think it was two podcasts ago. We had 2 50Ks and we needed another 50K. And bro, like imagine that. Imagine like on podcast you just won 50K like that.
Well, that is like a clip that would go crazy, and that's why I wanted to do this idea was like just build something for our listeners to stay till the end and listen to the whole, you know, interview. And then if we can win some millions, then that would be even better. Nooney, I have some bad news for you though. This is an absolute dud. So you had to get 3 of the same symbols, and we only have 2 of the same. You almost won 100 with 2 oranges, or 50,000. You need another cherry, but
50K.
That's gonna be a dud. If we ever win, hopefully, you know, we'll be able to put some money back into Elevate and keep growing this. But thank you for coming on today. We really appreciate it. Thank you for joining Elevate. We're doing everything we can. Keep getting you some more
Nunez,
deals on the
everybody.
side.
He's having a great season so far. Hopefully we'll hear his name this summer.
Make sure to tune in. We're hoping to see your name back in the – well, actually, Anthony can't get drafted again. So he hopefully after this year maybe get signed, continue playing at this high level. Nooney, thanks again for coming on. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.